Tech Talks. My name is Michael Bertoni, and I am the founder and CEO of Philly Tech. And it is so awesome to have you here today. I am so excited for my guest that I have here today. I'm gonna introduce her in a little bit. So just to tell you a story about my background, so Philly Tech, one of the things that we do is help software companies with sales. That's what we do here. So I have to tell you, I've been working with Heidi and her team from Legal Science and Monocle now for a couple months, and it's literally the best company and project and team that I've ever worked with. We're doing some really cool things. So welcome to have you here, Heidi. I really appreciate you coming. Want to shake my hand and say hi?
Sure.
You don't want to?
No, it's fine. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have, I've been talking about, I've told Heidi, I've talked about her in a lot of past episodes. She has to come through for the audience today. So yeah, Heidi has a really great background. I actually pulled up, we won't bring these up on Tech Talks, but she's a volleyball player, right? She's got beach volleyball pictures. Can't find many of them on the web right now, but I found a couple. We won't bring them up, but so Heidi, tell us a little bit about who you are, your background, and how you got started in this field.
Yeah, well, I mean, so I was your, college athlete, and so that's sort of where I started. I started playing volleyball when I was probably 15 or 16. This is back before the days of these massive clubs and travel teams and all this other stuff. But
right.
So, I played as a freshman at Georgia Tech and finished my career at the University of Albany in New York, which was my home state, and then went to Europe to play professionally for a year, and then came back and played about 12 or 13 years of pro beach volleyball. So, I mean, I was doing that as, and I continued to go to school and get degrees, and I had jobs in between, like I was a statistician for Nielsen TV ratings for a stint, and I really love that applied statistical work.
Right.
So I got my PhD at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, and came to Temple for my job as director of research in the College of Liberal Arts. And I mean, I'm a trained survey sampling statistician and applied statistician. And so I parlayed those skills around Temple in the research portfolio until I sort of found a project working with Scott Burris on a $20 million Robert Wood Johnson Foundation Award to make the case for laws that improve health.
Right.
And so that was a national program office at Temple for 10 years, and we've just sort of turned it over into a center, a larger center. And essentially what we do there and what our project was to take on the challenge of taking the text of the law and making that empirical data that could be used for statistical analysis so that you could look at the effects of laws on health in a causal framework.
Right.
That sounds academic-y and all that other stuff, but really at the end of the day, nobody was doing this. Nobody was sort of, structuring, creating ontologies, and creating scientifically valid and reliable data that we could use in the academic space for causal studies.
Yeah, so it's really exciting, guys, about this type of company, right? I mean, so there are a lot of academics at Legal Science, right? And basically, in terms of selling technology, right, you gotta drill it down. You gotta make it really simple. So what I think would be really good, just to start out with, Heidi, is legal research. I think everybody can understand what legal research is, right? There's tools out there like Westlaw, there's tools like LexisNexis, Wolters Kluwer, that you can do legal research, right? People understand what that is. You can grab data, do legal research. So tell us how you take that legal research, right? And then what do you do with it? What do you do with it from there at a high level?
All right.
Keep it simple.
I mean, so I think, the audience needs to know I am not a JD. I am not a lawyer. I am a PhD. So I am a statistician. My background's in math and statistics. And I work with the lawyers. And when I went to the law school 10 years ago at Temple, I said, well, where's the legal data? that we're supposed to be using in my statistical models or any other epidemiological or econometric study. And they handed me a bunch of text, and I was like, that's not data. We can't use that in its current form. And lawyers have been doing content analysis for a long time. They either take a pad and paper and create, X's and O's or zeros and ones. But we looked around for a tool that was sort of built specifically to enable the conversion of sort of massive amounts, tomes of legal text. Some laws are hundreds of pages, that would allow us to simplify, through creating ontologies, questions and answers, and the ability to pin cite the exact point in the legal text that is the answer to a question. And then for that to sort of behind the scenes, that's being converted to zeros, ones, variables, response sets, things that quantitative people are used to seeing and using. So we created the monocle. We looked at Excel. That has all kinds of limitations. I think if you talk to lawyers today, that tends to be a tool of choice, because you can make columns and rows very easily. But we were doing we were creating data for evaluation, which requires longitudinal data. So data over time in many jurisdictions, and you need variance and all this other stuff. And so we looked at Google Forms and a couple of other basic database tools that were there, and there just was nothing. So we created the monocle to solve our own pain, to make creating scientifically valid and reliable legal data easier, faster, more efficient, to enable the graph database kind of work that's allowing natural language processing and machine learning to take place. So when you're scraping all 50 websites, bringing all that massive amounts of text back, it can look and say what's there that we're already tracking, what's like what we're tracking, and cut down tremendously on what the lawyers have to sift through.
So when I first looked at Monocle, guys, it's extremely ahead of its time. I think you would agree with that, right? So in terms of the technology stack, it looks at data in a, for my audience, it looks at data from a non-relational database, right? It's not just tables and rows, right? It's storing large amounts of data sets in a very unique way. It started developing this tool back in 2013. When I look at it and I say you're trying to sell this, I think it was very ahead of its time, right? But we've been reaching out to a lot of companies now. Essentially, the use case, guys, is you have to track, analyze, visualize the law, legal things, right? And when I say the law, I mean use cases like marijuana laws, other use cases like gun laws, other use cases like, again, drone laws, another big thing that all these laws, people have to track these laws and understand them in order to conduct business, right? So when I looked at your technology, I think it was ahead of its time, right? When people were looking at it, they were like, I don't understand exactly what this does, but tell us about the customers, because you have a great product, you have revenue, you're driving revenue from customers, right? So I know Temple uses it, you have PDAPs, you have City Health. Tell the audience maybe your favorite customer that you have, the project. They could even go see it, right? They can go to the website and see it. So tell the audience about that. Like, what is it doing?
Sure. I mean, the use case really is anyone that needs to know a question to a particular, law, regulation, administrative rule that can be found in text, that we have worked on and created data for. You can find the answer to a question about the law in about 10 seconds versus asking a lawyer to go and spend several hours combing through these things. And if you need to know that in many, many states, you name it, employment law, data privacy laws. We've got the opioid epidemic, which is probably our largest project and was funded by the National Institutes for Drug Abuse. PDAPs is the prescription drug abuse policy system. And so there we are tracking all of the laws related to mediating, or reducing the death toll. Things that states are trying to do, Good Samaritan laws, naloxone laws, standing orders that states are trying to make, that drug available and easily available. Pill mill laws, cracking down on doctor shopping and things like that. So, it's a tool that has sort of three interfaces. One is a back-end tool where the lawyers actually use the tool to create the data. The database itself, which is a graph database of text and data, questions, answer, and legal text. And a front-end show, visualize, where you can create an interface that's easily, you can access the data easily through a question and answer format. Maps, tables, things that lawyers are used to looking at. Right. And so if you have to create a 50-state map on a particular law, whether it's medical marijuana, recreational marijuana, product safety, transportation, patient safety, you can do that really easily if we've already built these data sets and they exist.
Yeah, so I'd love, Heidi, for you to tell the audience, because again, what we're doing together in terms of me helping you, literally it's core of what I do. So tell the audience, because there's a lot of founders out there that have great products and they're having trouble selling them, right? So tell the audience, what were the challenges over the last few years with selling this, right? So what did you see were the challenges that you were just dealing with all the time? And, just to start there and let's go from there, because I think it's important. I work with so many founders and so many entrepreneurs. They have great technology. You have to be able to sell it, right? If you don't sell it, it's going to die. We don't want great software to die, right? So tell the audience about those challenges that you experienced.
Well, this starts, with the fact that we're academics. We're not, we're academics who had a tech transfer, taking intellectual property that was developed inside the university and spinning it out into a company to try to make the world a better place with that technology.
Right.
And that is actually what we're doing. We have technology where in many places we're in the public good space, public health law, healthcare law. And so I think we just don't know what we don't know in the beginning, and so we're willing to sort of defer to other people who've been in the startup and entrepreneurial space. Now, fast forward 6 years, I can tell you that we were head down developing a tool specifically to solve our own pain, which was research, data, long, big data sets, scientifically valid and reliable data sets. That's not necessarily a great product market fit for the outside law firm or policy shop. So we have a little bit of a product market fit issue in that it's a very sophisticated tool.
Right.
We also have the problem where the founders have no problem selling it. If I talk to someone or Scott talks to someone, they buy. But we have yet to, but that's probably because of our passion. We know what the tool does, and we can speak directly to the use case.
Right.
And we've just never had anyone, Mike, quite honestly, like you, who's come in and really gotten down to understanding where the product market fit is on the sort of commercial side. We have Quest Diagnostics as a customer. They have drug labs in every single state, and they need to know sort of like what are the laws requiring urine tests for people who need to come and for opioids. And I think so. Our creating tools for Quest has been one example of where this tool can be used in the regulatory space, in the legal information space. But it's been difficult, and I think we never had a real go-to-market strategy, and now I can use these buzz terms like, we need a go-to-market strategy. But for new entrepreneurs and founders, I wouldn't go anywhere until you've, one, taken Lindsay's, product market fit webinar, or talked to Mike, or any of these other great people in Philadelphia who are willing to help. But also, you got to have a rock solid go-to-market strategy. Right. And we just didn't do that. I mean, we have people buying from us who are like us.
Right.
And it's that sort of famed chasm, where we've got innovators, we have early adopters. We are a tool ahead of its time in the legal information area. And so,
So make sure you come back, guys, because this product actually has the potential to change the way the legal markets are conducting business. It's really exciting. There is machine learning architecture in place that enables machines to find laws and track laws and do things that humans just can't do. So come on back to Tech Talks in a few minutes. Thanks.
And your personality. Did you know that aside from being a guest, we offer even more opportunity to boost your brand? Adding your company logo and website on screen during your interview will allow viewers to recognize your brand instantly. Incorporating images and video clips is another great way to showcase your product during your live segment. Let viewers see how good you really are. And most importantly, there's you and your interview. For less than the cost of a newspaper, direct mail, or a magazine ad, you can leave our studio and within 48 hours have a permanent digital copy of your live segment to link to your social media, embed into your company website, or use in email marketing. Investing in your brand is so very important, and we can't wait to have you as a guest.
Shelter dogs aren't broken. They've simply experienced more life. If they were human, we would call them wise. They would be the ones with tales to tell and stories to write, the ones dealt a bad hand who responded with courage. Do not pity a shelter dog. Adopt one.
Say we've got grit, and we'll take it as a compliment. Because it's our uncommon drive, our spark within, that brings us together and sets us apart. We are temple made. And when others take shortcuts, when others take breaks, when others take the easy way, we take charge.
Add us on social media to watch bloopers, behind-the-scenes footage, previews, and more.
So welcome back to Tech Talks. My name again is Michael Bertoni. I'm the founder and CEO of Philly Tech. And I have Heidi Grunwald here. She is the founder, actually co-founder of Legal Science, and the product, guys, is called Monocle, right? So Monocle, it's interesting spelling. It's M-O-N-Q-C-L-E, right?
M-O-N-Q-C-L-E,
right.
Like monocle.
Interesting spelling, right? So again, this solution is for people who are interested in tracking, visualizing, analyzing the law. Right? So one of the things that we've been talking to a lot of customers, and one of the things that I keep hearing over and over again when we're talking to potential clients is, hey, how are you guys tracking these laws? Are people doing this, or are machines doing this? Right? And guys, this is where we're heading, right? A lot of things are going to be taken over by machines. But what's exciting about this technology is the architecture is in place to basically enable machines to track the law instead of people, which will way drive down the costs. So with that, Heidi, if you can explain, just again at a high level, how that works, right, and where the market's going, because I see that's kind of where the market's going.
Sure. I mean, I think, if you read any of the business journals or any of the like CB Insights or any kind of online blog about technology, everybody's interested in AI and blockchain. It's like if you're doing blockchain, they're going to take your calls. And if you're doing AI, they're going to take your calls.
Right.
The real question is, like, to what extent are you doing real AI versus, sort of like machine learning, machine-assisted, sort of human expert interaction kind of work.
Right.
And, essentially if you know anything about machine learning, it takes training data, right? And so essentially what we're doing every day with the tool that facilitates the work, that minimizes errors, that reduces time, that adds value based on the fact that you have the data exhaust plus the visualization stuff, is behind the scenes creating this mass graph database that connects the question, the answer, and the specific text in the law, right? So those nodes are connected, and the machine knows that those nodes are connected. So when the monocle goes out and scrapes all 50 state websites every night and brings all of the things that happened that were codified last night from the 50 states, it can quickly sift through all that text and identify things that are currently in any of our nodes. Right? If it sees a response set or a text that's similar, it'll bring that law back and it'll say, hey, to the machine, it'll say, hey, we think you're currently tracking this, and it might be an updated version. Right? But then that requires, and it'll create the diff file. So it'll highlight the things that are different. Sometimes they change a law, it's just a comma, right? Or it's not a substantive change. So the lawyer has to go in and look and say, okay, substantive change, I'm going to clone a record, update it with the new text, new pin site, boom, done. Right? So then that's published immediately. There's no Excel sheet where you have to overwrite or create a new tab, or, we're cloning data records.
Right.
And so, we've done experiments before where the machine has brought back 38,000 pages of legal text in a given night. Right. In, like, for example, Good Samaritan laws. And 38 of those things look like they're related to what we're doing. Right. And in fact, we've done some tests on false positives and false negatives, and the identification rates, the classification rates are really high. So we know that the machine can do this a heck of a lot faster than lawyers just sifting through all this stuff. Right. The lawyers, the expert in the field, the domain expert, is still the one making the code. So they're reading the text, pin citing that. The question is whether or not the machine can ever get that far. Certainly the machine could make suggestions, right? And I think that's kind of where this is headed. Right. I think big companies like, if this was easy, we'd have Google Law. Or if this was easy, you'd see Palantir doing this, and they're not. And part of that is because the way the text of the law is written, it really requires that human expert interaction.
Yeah, so this is really where the market's going, guys. So again, imagine the use case of, let's talk about drones, right? So obviously drones are new. Drones are going to be coming out in the next few years. You are head of legal counsel at a company, right, like Amazon, right? And you got to figure out what the drone laws are in the 50 states, right? If you can imagine setting up a model where there's publicly available websites out there, 50 publicly available websites where all the drone legal data is. If you can imagine a machine going out, grabbing that data, bringing it back, right, and then being able to sift through it in a way that makes sense, and then enabling the legal team again to take over, where the machine maybe doesn't do everything, but it takes you to maybe 30% or 40% or 50% of where you need to be, right? This is where this technology, Monocle, has the ability to enable this, right? The architecture, the framework is set up to do it today. So it's really exciting. So we're going to shift gears a little bit, and I've been working with Legal Science and Monocle now for a couple months, and let's talk about let's go back and forth about how this all happened. You emailed me, you said, Mike, I want to get together and talk. What were you dealing with at that time? So I don't know what you can say, what you can't say, but what were you dealing with that time? What did you want help with?
As academic founders, neither Scott or I are there in a leadership capacity at the company. And so we have Elizabeth Platt, who's there. She's our current CEO. But we went through a series of CEOs who just couldn't create a go-to-market strategy and couldn't actually sell. Now, we had technology people, we had developers, computer electrical engineers. We had sort of operational gains during the times we had those CEOs, but we just never had anyone who could sell. Part of that is a process, that you have that we really value, and you can see results every day, every week, for what's working, what's not working. And I think, having the ability to talk to people about the product, demo the product, that's what every founder wants to be able to do, right? To show. Right. And I think getting through the doors is the difficult part, but Scott and I or any of our colleagues, we can say, who do you know here, who do you know there, but your process is a very systematic process and works.
Right.
So we're seeing successes in just say 6 weeks where we haven't had that in like 6 years.
6 weeks instead of 6 years, right? That's it. And so I'm not going to go like this or anything, but I'm so excited to be working with these guys. So let me tell you the process, guys, how to do this, how quickly it could happen. So they came to me and they said, we want to target these companies. At a high level, it was software companies, it was service companies that care about tracking data. Companies like Wolters Kluwer, LexisNexis, companies like that have products already, right, that we can be additive to, right? So I got that list, right? Then essentially just started, I built a one-page document on Monocle, right? And then just started running campaigns and getting meetings. So we got to wrap it up in a few minutes. I could talk about this for hours, but tell the audience what we were able to do. So I targeted the companies you wanted to target. What were we able to do? Where are we right now at a high level, like in terms of what we've been able to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's just super exciting for us to be able to talk to people who are either in the data business, who are in the policy advocacy business, because this is what they do. They care about the law every single day, and legal information providers. And these three domains are sort of have been in our, laser sights, and we just haven't been able to have anyone put a very systematic and what I feel like is pretty simple, but saying that I should have done it myself, so I'm not trying to say I could have done it. Right. I'm just saying that, having the sales skills, the acumen, the sort of LinkedIn mining and all these other things that take time, take skill, take process. Right. Works. It works because we've been able to do 3 or 4 high-level demos with companies we've been targeting for a very long time.
Yeah, so she said earlier 6 years, right? So I think in about 6 weeks, we got a light verbal on a proof of concept. We won't say who the customer is because we didn't win anything yet, but again, super, super exciting. And, so it doesn't take a lot, but again, appreciate you coming to Tech Talks and really appreciate you coming, Heidi. Appreciate your business and looking forward to continuing to work with you. So come back to Tech Talks every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. See you next week. Thanks, Heidi.
Thanks, Mike.